Corporate real estate is one of the biggest operational costs for today's finance managers. So how do you bring it down? In this program, we find out. Executives are increasingly being challenged to get more value out of their corporate real estate assets. Better visibility will be key, but how do firms get started? I recently caught up with IBM's John Smart to find out how businesses can optimise their portfolios to balance both growth and cost management. And we began with a look at how upcoming changes in the lease accounting standards are likely to provide a stimulus for change.
What's changing is that the world is now looking at a single accounting standard that brings organizations much more accountable for their books. And what I mean by that is we have the IASB, which is the International Accounting Standards Board, and the U.S. Accounting Standards Board, FASB, have gotten together and they wanted to have transparency of how organizations are viewed within their portfolio. So it's going to make organizations have accountability to be able to place all those assets, those leases, as a liability on the balance sheet and an asset that has to be managed from a financial perspective. And significant change for many organizations. The typical organization is going to have over $1 billion liability dropped onto their books. And we've seen some of our customers up to $20–30 billion of liability based on the initial assessment. So it has a significant impact on profitability, earnings, EBITDA. All the financial metrics are going to change with this upcoming guideline.
These changes are still being agreed upon. There's no kind of final standard being ratified as such. So where does the urgency for this lie?
Most public organizations will do 2-year lookbacks on their financial statements. So let's just say hypothetically that the requirement is 1/1/19 is when corporations have to start doing the new accounting. Well, if you backtrack that 2 years, 1/1/17 is when they're going to have to start doing double book accounting. And most organizations aren't ready for this change. In a CFO study that we did, we found that most organizations they expect at least an 18-month preparedness session for them to get all these assets together and do their due diligence in order to start meeting it. So then you back up 1/1/17, another 18 months, and it's right around the corner. We're starting next year. And the big challenge is a lot of organizations don't have the systems in place to even inventory this type of information to do the right accounting. So they're scrambling, getting their house in order, not only from a business perspective and a process perspective, but also a technology perspective.
Okay, sure. So what are the steps that the firms need to take in order to be ready for those deadlines?
Obviously, the finance organization is heavily involved. The CFO, the comptrollers of these organizations, the Treasury Department, the real estate groups, because the real estate assets are probably the most expensive. It's usually the third or fourth largest expense on the balance sheet already. Those assets have to be managed. So we're seeing task force going through, and organizations are starting to analyze what internal controls they're going to need in order to be compliant. But what we're also seeing is a shift in how organizations are looking at the real estate and how they deliver real estate. We're seeing a shift of organizations looking at do they need to provide as much real estate to their organization in light of not only the requirement, but also just in today's work styles. So we're starting to see people changing their approach to delivering real estate to the business. They're making different decisions on, do I buy a piece of a building or do I lease it? If it's all going to go on my balance sheet as a liability, do I want to own it versus lease it? We're seeing different leasing structures being done. So organizations are trying to get smart internally with their process controls. They're working with their audit firms and making sure that they have the audits in place and the due diligence in place to be auditable. And then lastly, IT's involved because the systems in place aren't ready. So there's a lot of movement in the IT world of getting platforms in place that can handle the new lease accounting requirement.
So firms are starting to look at this from a more strategic viewpoint rather than an operational viewpoint.
That's right. I think this is a really unparalleled time in our space. And I look at most real estate executives. This is an opportunity to really embrace this new world that we live in our workforce. If you look at the accounting requirement, it's all around pressures around keeping costs down, right? And a lot of CEOs and board of directors are putting cost pressures on organizations to reduce costs. But at the same time, it's exciting because work styles are changing. Most of us all carry smartphones. The way that we work today is very different than we worked even 10 years ago in the organizations. Looking at this as an opportunity to deliver new work styles for our workforce to make them more productive and more proactive in how they collaborate with their associates. At the same time, looking at ways to bring costs down by matching up the right, what I refer to as supply and demand. Do we have the right supply of real estate and the type of space that our employees need to match the demand for that space of what employees require to do their job in a more productive way. So the executives are starting to realize this, and we're seeing the dynamics playing together as the two forces, providing more collaboration in the workplace as well as reducing costs by understanding how that space is being used and getting rid of it if it's not being used in the business.
How is technology being used in this space? How can it help address some of these particular challenges?
So IBM is really focused on helping customers solve this particular business problem and drive efficiencies in the portfolio. Our Tririga real estate system is a real estate platform, enterprise platform, that helps organizations, what I refer to as, get a 360-degree view of how that real estate's being used and drive efficiencies in that portfolio. Understanding who uses those assets in real estate, how well is it being used? It's surprising. You go to most organizations, you walk the floors, there's a lot of empty workstations. And why is that? Is most employees today are social, they're collaborative, they're having meetings at coffee shops, they're at client sites, and so forth. So the use of the space is treated in a new way. So all these dynamics come together. IBM Tririga lets customers understand those, and then on the smarter workforce side, we provide solutions to bring new efficiencies in the organization. So with mobility, we have a series of applications to make an employee much more effective in their job. So finding a space when they need it, finding equipment when they need it. They need AV equipment for a meeting. Where are my friends? Where's this person located in the building today that I need to meet? So we're very much focused around three main areas with Tririga is portfolio optimization and understanding the building, but also driving better services to the employees that are within the organization. And then lastly, driving costs out of the building by understanding when those supply and demands aren't matching, get rid of that demand so you don't carry those extra costs on your balance sheet.
Okay, sure. Can you share any examples of firms who are particularly doing this well? Anybody who's seen particular success in this area by using this approach?
So IBM and our internal RESO group with John DeMarco and our team are really a showcase in the world of how organizations are embracing this new change. With our RESO organization, we're very much starting to deliver some very collaborative workspace for the employees. And IBM went from over 200 million square feet of space around the world to cutting it almost in half to 100 million square feet of space over the last 10 or 15 years by shedding a lot of buildings and sending a lot of us home. I'm a good example of that, where I work from my home or on an airplane, so this is my workspace. But IBM is also recognizing that it's not just about sending employees home and work at home, but also now starting to introduce more collaborative work styles, so that as an employee, if I need a customer meeting or bring a collaborative meeting with my staff, that I have some great things at my disposal to have that type of meeting that I need. A good showcase of that is in Manhattan. IBM Watson Group has this really awesome collaborative workspace, the Watson Center, which is a showcase in the market of how space can be used. And you look at people like Google, you look at Facebook, you look at some of the more progressive companies, they're the ones that are really starting to embrace this change. And Google, one of our customers, it's fun visiting their site. You'll see everything from treadmill desks to beanbag chairs to the type of space that the employees need. And they really pay attention to work style and personal preference. So even to the color of the walls that an employee sees when they walk down the hallway and the type of lighting coming in, all that's changing. And it's an exciting time for the workforce. Because the tools are there and the work styles are available with social media and mobility and all those tools, that it's becoming a new way of delivering real estate to the business.
For more fantastic interviews directly related to your business, be sure to explore Meet the Boss TV.